Welcome to Starbound Valor HFY. Subscribe now and dive into daily epic sci-fi adventures where humanity always rises. In the deep night of the Kongo Jungle, when the world was quiet and the sky was clear, a strange blue light appeared far above the tall trees. It moved slowly at first, like a falling star that had lost its way, but soon the light began to change shape, stretching into long glowing lines that twisted and danced across the darkness. The jungle animals felt something before they saw it. Birds stopped singing, insects went silent, and even the wind seemed to pause as if it was afraid to breathe. Far below, in a small village on the edge of the jungle, people looked up in fear. They had seen storms, fires, and wild animals many times, but they had never seen a light like this, silent, smooth, and not natural. The elders stepped out of their huts, whispering old stories about spirits and sky visitors, but nobody truly understood what was happening. Among the villagers was a young hunter named Kato, a boy with sharp eyes and a brave heart. He had spent many nights climbing tall trees to watch the stars, and tonight he felt something different in the air, something that pulled him toward the jungle like a voice calling his name. Instead of running inside like the others, Kato grabbed his spear and climbed the tallest tree near the village. From there he had the best view of the sky, and what he saw made his breath freeze. The blue lights were not random. They were moving in a pattern, forming circles in the sky like symbols or messages. Then, without warning, a bright flash lit up the entire jungle as a huge shape broke through the clouds. It was not a bird, not a plane, not anything Kato had ever seen. The object was smooth and metallic, shaped like a long oval stone, glowing from inside with blue energy. It made no sound as it moved, not even when it cut through the clouds. The giant object slowed down as it reached the jungle canopy, and for a moment it hovered there like it was looking for a place to land. Kato's heart pounded, but he could not look away. He felt a strange mix of fear and curiosity, like he was watching something important, something that would change everything. The object lowered gently, disappearing behind the trees, and then the night went quiet again. No explosion. No smoke. No fire. It was like the jungle swallowed the strange object whole. Kato climbed down quickly, ignoring the villagers who shouted for him to stay inside. He felt a strong pull in his chest, a feeling that told him he needed to see what had fallen from the sky. He ran barefoot into the jungle, his spear in his hand, guided only by the faint blue glow that was still shining through the trees. The deeper he went, the stranger the jungle became. The trees were taller, the air felt heavy, and the silence was deeper than he had ever heard before. Even the usual sounds of frogs and insects were gone. After several minutes of running, he reached a small clearing, and what he saw there made him stop completely. The ground was glowing. Not burning, glowing. Soft blue light flowed under the soil like liquid, moving between roots and leaves. Kato crouched down and touched the glowing ground with his fingertips. It was warm, almost alive, pulsing like a heartbeat. He looked ahead and saw broken branches, crushed plants, and a long trail where something large had crashed through the jungle. His fear grew, but so did his curiosity. He followed the trail until he reached a huge tree that had been sliced clean in half, as if cut by something extremely sharp. Then he saw it, the thing from the sky. It was partly buried in the ground, still glowing softly. The object was bigger than a house, smooth and silver, with strange symbols carved along its sides. Kato stepped closer, his spear shaking in his hands. He knew this was no human craft. It looked too perfect, too smooth, too silent. He circled it slowly, searching for an opening or a sign of life, but everything about it was still. Just when he reached the front side of the object, a thin line of light appeared on its surface. Kato froze. The line grew wider, stretching from one end of the object to the other, like a giant eye opening. A soft hiss came from inside, warm air escaping into the cold jungle night. Kato stepped back, his heart beating so hard he felt it in his ears. The light grew brighter and brighter until Kato could barely keep his eyes open. Then the line stopped moving. The opening was complete. Kato raised his spear and held his breath. Something was coming out. And whatever it was not human. Kato stood completely still as the bright light from the opening washed over the jungle floor. His breathing slowed, his hands tightened on the spear, and every muscle in his body turned stiff with fear. The soft hiss from inside the silver craft continued, like some kind of giant creature was breathing slowly, waking up after a long sleep. For a moment nothing happened, and the silence became even heavier, almost painful. Then a shadow moved inside the glowing doorway. Cato's heart jumped. A tall figure stepped out, its shape thin and long, nothing like a human. Its skin looked metallic, smooth like polished stone, and its eyes shone with a bright white light, as if two small stars were trapped inside its head. The creature looked around slowly, scanning the jungle with a strange calmness, as if it already knew where everything was. Two more figures followed behind it, moving in perfect rhythm, their steps silent and soft despite their size. They wore no armor, no clothing, only their strange silver skin that reflected the light around them. Cato crouched lower behind a fallen tree, forcing himself not to make a sound. The three beings raised thin devices in their hands, each one glowing with small blue dots that blinked like fireflies. One of them pointed the device toward the trees. A beam of light shot out silently, sweeping left and right. Wherever the beam touched, the air shook slightly, like heat rising from a fire. The aliens began to speak to each other, but their language was strange, a metallic clicking mixed with a soft echoing hum, like two machines trying to whisper secrets. Cato could not understand a single word, but he could feel the meaning. They were searching for something. Maybe they were scanning the jungle. Maybe they were looking for life. Or maybe they were looking for him. The tallest alien tapped its device, and a hologram flickered above it, a small floating screen showing a map of the jungle. Strange symbols flashed across the map, glowing red and orange. The tall alien said something sharp and urgent. The others nodded. Cato felt a cold wave run through his body. They knew this jungle was not simple. They sensed something powerful here, something unusual. The aliens began walking in Cato's direction, their glowing eyes sweeping the darkness like flashlights. Cato held his breath and pressed his back deeper against the tree trunk. His heart thumped so loudly he feared they could hear it. A faint buzzing sound came from above. Cato looked up and saw a small round drone floating out of the alien ship, its surface covered in shifting lights. It hovered above the three aliens, scanning the jungle from above like a watchful guardian. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the trees. The jungle floor vibrated, but only for a brief second. The aliens stopped walking. Their heads turned sharply to the right, all at the same moment, like they were connected by one mind. The tall alien raised its device again and pointed it toward a cluster of thick bushes. The drone moved closer to the area, its lights blinking rapidly. The bushes began to shake. Cato thought an animal might have been hiding there, a leopard, a boar, or even a large snake. But the sound was too fast, too heavy. The shaking grew stronger, the leaves trembling like something big was moving beneath them. One alien raised its hand, signaling the others to stand back. The drone floated just inches above the bushes. Then, without warning, the drone dropped to the ground like a stone. All its lights flickered for half a second, then went completely dark. The aliens stepped back in confusion. They clicked and hissed at each other in panic. The tall one tried to activate the drone with its device, but no response came. The bushes exploded outward. Something moved. Something fast. Something unseen. Cato could barely follow it with his eyes. It was just a blur rushing between the trees. A powerful force slammed into one of the aliens, dragging it away so quickly that the other two didn't even have time to scream. The alien's bright eyes vanished into the darkness, and its device dropped to the ground, rolling toward Cato's hiding place. The remaining two aliens shouted in their strange language, their voices echoing with alarm. Their calmness was gone. Their movements were quick and sharp now, full of fear. They pointed their devices toward the dark area where their companion had disappeared. Blue beams shot wildly into the jungle, lighting up the trees like lightning flashes. But whatever had taken the alien was too fast, too silent. It left no trace. No footsteps. No sound. Only fear. Cato felt his skin crawl. Something was out there. Something strong enough to pull a giant metallic alien into the darkness like it was nothing. The aliens slowly backed toward their ship, their eyes scanning every corner of the jungle. One of them tapped its chest, and a deep vibrating sound pulsed through the air like a warning signal. Suddenly, the trees to Kato's left rustled softly. Not in a normal way, not like wind or animals. The sound felt intentional. Watching. Following. The two aliens turned sharply, raising their weapons. But the jungle around them went completely still again. Too still. The glow from the ship flickered behind them, casting long shadows across the clearing. Kato swallowed hard. Whatever lived in this jungle, whatever had taken the alien, it was not afraid of them. And worst of all, it might not be alone. The two remaining aliens stood frozen, their glowing eyes scanning every shadow as the jungle swallowed the silence around them. Kato could feel the fear rolling off their bodies like heat, and for the first time since they arrived, they did not look like powerful beings from another world. They looked confused, nervous, and completely unprepared. The jungle seemed to breathe slowly, as if it was alive and watching them. A soft creaking noise echoed through the trees, but nothing moved. The aliens stepped back until their heels touched the soft glowing soil near their ship. One of them tapped its arm again, sending another pulse of sound through the air. This time the sound bounced strangely against the trees, bending and twisting, almost like the jungle was refusing to return the signal. The tall alien growled in its metallic voice, frustrated, and raised its weapon device. It shot a thin beam of blue light into the bushes where its missing companion had been taken. The beam cut through leaves and branches, but the moment it touched a thick vine hanging from a high branch, something unexpected happened. The vine snapped toward the ground like a whip. The alien jumped back, shocked. The vine moved again, slower now, almost like it was searching for something. Kato's eyes widened. Vines did not move like that on their own. Not even in the deepest parts of the jungle. The tall alien fired another beam, and this time a nearby tree reacted. Its branches twisted suddenly, curling toward the alien as though trying to grab it. The alien stepped back quickly, and the other one covered it with a defensive position. Kato felt cold fear crawl down his spine. The jungle was not acting normal. It was responding. Like it was angry. Like it was protecting something hidden deep inside. A sudden rustling sound came from Kato's right, louder than before. The aliens snapped their heads toward it, raising their weapons. Blue beams flashed again, lighting the trees like flashes of lightning. But the jungle fought back. The roots under the ground shifted. Kato saw them rise slightly, like snakes moving under the soil. The roots wrapped around a fallen branch, lifting it slightly. Then, without warning, the branch shot forward like a spear. It missed the aliens by inches, smashing into the ground beside them. The aliens reacted instantly, firing wild beams at every direction. The beams cut through branches and leaves, filling the air with the smell of burning wood. But nothing stopped the jungle. Every time the aliens hit one vine, another moved. Every time they cut a branch, two more bent toward them. Something in the heart of the forest was awake, and it did not want them here. Kato crouched lower, watching every strange movement, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. This was no normal jungle. It was alive in a way he had never imagined. The stories the elders told, the ones he laughed at when he was younger, suddenly felt real. Stories about ancient spirits, old powers, guardians that protected the deep forest from outsiders. Maybe they were more than just stories. The aliens backed up slowly, clearly overwhelmed. Their technology was advanced, but they were losing control. One alien shouted something sharp, a command. The other tapped its device, and the ship's entrance glowed brighter. It seemed they were preparing to retreat or call for help. But the jungle did not give them a chance. A sound echoed through the trees, deep and low, like a giant beast waking up. The sound shook leaves, rattled branches, and sent a cold wave of fear through Kato's body. The aliens stiffened. Their glowing eyes widened, and for the first time, Kato saw real fear in them. The sound came again, this time closer. A tremor rolled across the ground. The soil cracked slightly near Kato's feet. Birds flew out of the canopy in a massive cloud, screaming in panic. Even the insects that had been silent all night suddenly buzzed loudly before disappearing into hiding. The aliens lifted their weapons again, scanning every corner. Then Kato saw something move, a giant shadow passing quickly between two trees. It was too large, too fast, and completely silent. The aliens fired at the shadow, but the beams hit only bark and leaves. Whatever was out there was not letting them target it. Another quick blur shot across the clearing. The aliens turned, but they were too slow. A vine whipped across their legs, pulling one off balance. The alien fell, hitting the ground with a metallic thud. Before it could stand, 3 thick roots wrapped around its arm, holding it down. The alien screamed in its metallic voice, a harsh sound filled with panic. The tall alien tried to help its companion, firing directly at the roots. They burned, but new roots appeared instantly, grabbing the fallen alien again. The tall alien looked around desperately, failing to understand how a simple jungle could fight like this. Kato felt his stomach twist in fear. If the jungle could do this to aliens with advanced weapons, what could it do to him? He slowly stepped back, keeping his body low, trying not to draw attention. As he moved, he noticed something carved into a nearby tree. A symbol burned deep into the bark. Not alien. Not recent. Human-made, old and worn, as if left by people long before he was born. Kato stared at it, and a chill went through his chest. Someone had been here before. Someone who knew about the jungle's secret. And maybe, someone who had fought this battle long ago. The tall alien finally freed its trapped companion, but now both of them were breathing hard, scanning wildly, completely unsure of where the next attack would come from. The jungle had stopped moving for a moment, but the silence felt even more dangerous. Kato backed up further, trying to escape before the jungle noticed him too. But as he turned, he realized something that made his heart drop. He was not alone anymore. A group of silent human figures stood behind him, watching him with painted faces and spears made of bone and stone. They had blended perfectly with the jungle. And they had arrived without a sound. Kato froze the moment he saw the silent figures standing behind him, their dark eyes glowing faintly in the dim jungle light. They wore bodies painted with thick black and red symbols, and their muscles were strong like stone, shaped by years of living deep inside the wild forest. Their spears were long and decorated with feathers, bones, and bright stones that seemed to pulse softly, almost like they were alive. Kato had heard stories about the hidden tribe called Mboko, guardians of the deep jungle, protectors of secrets older than any village. But he never believed they were real, because no one from the outside had ever seen them. Yet now, they stood right in front of him, silent, calm, and dangerous. One of them stepped forward, an older warrior with white paint covering half his face. He looked at Kato with eyes sharp as knives, then raised 2 fingers and pointed toward the ground, signaling Kato not to move. Kato obeyed instantly, his breath shaking in his chest. The elder signaled again, and 2 warriors stepped beside him, each grabbing one of Kato's arms, not harshly, but firmly, like they did not want to hurt him but also would not let him escape. The elder placed a hand on Kato's shoulder and whispered something in the tribe's language, a language Kato didn't understand, but the tone was calm, almost gentle. Then the elder looked past Kato, toward the aliens still trapped in their struggle with the living jungle. His expression changed into one of deep concern, as if he had seen this before, maybe many times. With a quick gesture, the warriors lifted Kato with surprising ease and carried him deeper into the jungle. He wanted to resist, but something in their calm movements told him that they were not his enemies. They moved silently, like shadows, stepping between roots and branches without making a sound. Kato realized that the jungle was not attacking them. The vines did not move toward them, the branches did not twist, the ground did not glow under their feet. It was as if the jungle recognized them, accepted them. After several minutes of walking, they reached a hidden entrance, an opening in the ground covered by thick roots and leaves. One warrior tapped a stone 3 times, and the roots moved aside, revealing a deep tunnel. They carried Kato inside. The air grew cooler, the light dimmer. The tunnel opened into a wide underground chamber lit by torches made of strange glowing sap. The walls were filled with carvings, thousands of them, telling stories in pictures. The warriors placed Kato on his feet again, and the elder walked to the carvings and pointed. Kato followed the elder's finger and felt his stomach twist. The first carving showed a large glowing object falling from the sky, just like the alien ship he had seen. The next carving showed tall, thin figures with strange eyes, just like the aliens now in the jungle. The carving after that showed the jungle reacting, vines rising, trees moving, the earth itself fighting back. It looked exactly like what he had witnessed. These were not new events. These were old. Very old. The elder touched a carving of a giant creature rising from the center of the earth, surrounded by glowing roots. The creature had eyes like fire and a body made of wood, stone, and something else, something ancient. Cato pointed at it and whispered, "What is that?" The elder understood his question even without the words. He placed his hand on his chest and spoke softly, "The Guardian." Cato felt a cold shiver crawl through him. The Guardian. The stories whispered by the village elders suddenly came alive. Stories of a creature older than men, older than the jungle itself, sleeping deep in the heart of the Congo, awakening only when the land was in great danger. The elder then pointed at another carving. This one showed humans, a tribe like the Mboko, holding long stones that produced waves of sound. These stones were being used to calm the Guardian, to keep it asleep, to stop it from destroying everything. Cato stared at the carvings, his mind racing. "Have they come before?" he asked softly, pointing at the alien figures. The elder nodded slowly. "Not just once. Many times. And every time, something terrible happened." Cato felt his chest tighten. The aliens thought humans were weak. They thought Earth was simple. They were wrong. The elder walked closer to Cato and lifted his chin gently, looking into his eyes. There was no anger in the elder's expression, only worry. He spoke softly, pointing toward the surface. "Aliens, awaken Guardian. Guardian, destroy all." Cato's heart dropped. If the aliens kept fighting the jungle, they would wake the Guardian again. And this time, it might not stop. The elder turned and picked up a long staff carved with symbols that glowed faintly. He raised it above his head, and the warriors responded with a deep hum that echoed off the chamber walls. The elder lowered the staff and gestured for Cato to follow. They moved deeper into the chamber, entering a room filled with old weapons, strange stone instruments, and glowing roots that pulsed like slow heartbeats. The elder handed Cato a small stone ring engraved with ancient marks. It was warm to the touch. The elder placed Cato's hand over his own heart and whispered, "You chosen. Jungle see you." Cato shook his head, confused. How could he be chosen for anything? He was just a hunter from a small village. But the elder pointed at the glowing ring again, then at Cato's chest, then toward the jungle above. Something in the jungle had recognized Cato. Something had allowed him to witness things no outsider should ever see. Before Cato could speak, the ground above them trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. A deep roar echoed through the jungle, far away, but powerful enough to shake the chamber. The elder's eyes widened with fear. The Guardian was waking, and the aliens were still out there. Cato knew, in that moment, that he had no choice. He had to help stop the awakening, before the jungle destroyed everything, human and alien alike. Inside the silent clearing above the underground chamber, the alien ship pulsed with dim blue light as the two remaining aliens rushed inside, their metallic footsteps ringing sharply against the smooth floor. The interior of the ship was cold and bright, filled with floating screens, pulsing tubes, and strange symbols that moved like living letters. The taller alien slammed its hand on a glowing panel, locking the entrance behind them. The door sealed with a metallic hiss, shutting out the sounds of the restless jungle. For a moment, both aliens stood completely still, processing everything they had just seen, the moving vines, the shifting trees, the creature that had dragged their companion away. Their bodies shook with a mixture of fear and frustration, emotions they were not used to feeling. Their species prided itself on control, intelligence, and superiority. Yet here on this planet, everything felt wrong. The shorter alien broke the silence first, tapping a screen and pulling up old mission logs from their ancestors. The holographic screen floated in the air, displaying faded recordings. A voice from centuries ago echoed through the ship, speaking in their metallic language. The translation symbols appeared on the side: Earth, resource-rich, primitive life forms, weak resistance. The taller alien clicked angrily, its eyes flashing. The logs continued. The ancient crew had come with confidence, expecting to dominate easily. But soon the logs showed static, broken images of vines attacking equipment, strange creatures emerging from the ground, and something huge moving in the shadows. The final log ended abruptly with a warning: "Do not disturb the heart of the jungle. The Guardian awakens." The taller alien growled, clearly annoyed. It believed the previous mission had failed because of poor leadership or bad strategy. It refused to accept that a primitive planet could defeat them. The shorter alien shook its head and zoomed further into the logs. There were more files, classified ones. When opened, they revealed something even more disturbing: scans of massive energy signatures buried deep under the Kongo jungle. Energy stronger than anything found on other planets, energy that seemed alive. The aliens scanned the fresh readings from their own ship, comparing them to the old logs. The match was perfect. Whatever ancient force had defeated their ancestors was still here. Still alive. Still waiting. The taller alien hissed in disbelief and turned its glowing eyes toward another screen showing the jungle map. New red dots flashed rapidly, movement signatures everywhere, forming a circle around the ship. The jungle was not just reacting. It was closing in. The aliens activated drones to patrol around the ship, but the moment the drones left through small upper vents, their signals vanished one by one. Every drone was destroyed within seconds, swallowed by the jungle with silent precision. The shorter alien trembled, something rare for their kind. They were trained soldiers, explorers, conquerors. But nothing in their training had prepared them for a jungle that acted like a living creature. The tall alien opened a file titled Planetary Claim Protocol. According to it, their mission was to secure resources, test the environment, remove threats, and prepare Earth for colonization. Their species had already marked Earth on their star maps as a future outpost. They believed humans were weak, simple, and easy to control. They had come expecting victory. Instead, they were fighting an enemy they couldn't see, an entire ecosystem with intelligence. The shorter alien suddenly pointed at the central console. A new alarm appeared. Energy levels in the jungle were rising fast. The ground itself seemed to pulse with life. The ship scanners detected huge roots moving under the soil, converging toward one point, an ancient crater at the jungle center. The aliens zoomed in, studying the crater. They saw massive vines wrapped around a giant shape buried deep beneath the earth. A creature. A sleeping giant. And the energy spikes matched its heartbeat. The Guardian. The same creature from the ancient logs. The tall alien stepped back, its eyes flickering. It was one thing to face wild animals or hostile tribes. It was another to face a planetary protector that had already defeated their species once before. Still, pride pushed them forward. The taller alien spoke with harsh, determined clicks. They could not return home in shame. Failure was worse than death in their culture. They needed proof, evidence, samples of the energy source. If they brought that back, even if the mission failed, they would be honored. So they prepared the energy drill, a massive machine stored in the back of the ship, capable of breaking through mountains. As they activated it, the ship trembled. The jungle outside roared loudly, as if sensing the danger. The vines closest to the ship moved like snakes, hammering the hull, trying to break through. But the ship's walls held strong. The taller alien raised its weapon and pointed at the map. They would take the drill to the crater, gather samples, and awaken the Guardian if needed. They believed they could control it, or at least survive long enough to escape with the data. The shorter alien hesitated, shaking its head in fear. But the leader hissed sharply. It was an order. No turning back. The drill hummed with rising energy, filling the ship with vibrations. The jungle answered with an even stronger tremor. Something big was moving beneath the earth, awakening slowly. The aliens did not understand that by chasing power, they were bringing doom closer. The Guardian was stirring, and nothing on Earth, alien or human, would escape its awakening. In the early hours before sunrise, the air in the Kongo jungle felt heavy and tense, as if the land itself feared what was coming next, and while Mosi and the others rested near the old stone gate, the alien team prepared their machines with silent discipline, trying to understand the source of the strange power they had felt the night before. Commander Thelos studied the glowing symbols on his floating screen, his eyes sharp with worry because the readings made no sense, showing energy rising from deep under the earth like a heartbeat waking from long sleep. Mosi watched them from a distance, his mind full of questions, wondering what kind of danger these visitors had brought into his home. He moved closer and asked the Los why the forest felt angry today, and the Los answered with a voice heavy with fear that something ancient had awakened, something older than both humans and aliens, something that should have stayed silent forever. Before Mosi could ask more, the ground trembled under their feet, shaking the trees and sending birds flying in panic as a deep rumbling sound rose from below, like the roar of a giant waking from a long and painful sleep. The alien machines flashed red alarms, and the landing ship lights flickered as if something was draining power from everything around. A moment later the stone gate behind them started to glow with soft golden light, not weak and fading like before, but strong and alive, spreading across the carvings in patterns that pulsed like veins carrying energy. Mosi stepped back in shock because he had never seen the gate behave like this in his entire life, and even the elders had told stories of it only glowing softly, never with this kind of living power. The alien soldiers raised their weapons, but the Los shouted for them to lower them, explaining that attacking something they did not understand could be the end of all of them. Suddenly the ground split open near the gate, creating a long crack from which bright golden mist poured out like smoke rising from a sacred fire, and inside the mist something moved, forming a tall silhouette that looked both human and not human. Mosi felt cold fear freeze his body when he saw the shape step out of the mist, its body made of shimmering light and ancient energy, its eyes glowing like two suns trapped inside a face carved from smoke. The Los whispered that this was impossible because the readings showed no life form, no body, no matter of any kind, only pure energy, yet something intelligent stood before them. The being spoke without moving its mouth, its voice entering their minds like an echo from another world, telling them that the gate they had touched was never meant for explorers or for people hungry for secrets, but for guardians who protected the balance of the land. It said the forest had called for help, crying to the ancient power because outsiders had disturbed something sacred, and now the forest demanded judgment. The alien soldiers panicked and pointed their weapons again, but the being raised its hand, and every weapon melted into liquid metal that dripped to the ground, steaming as if burned by the sun. Mosi stood trembling, unsure if this being was friend or enemy, but he forced himself to ask why the forest blamed them when they had only tried to understand the strange signs. The being looked at him with calm eyes and said that curiosity alone was not a crime, but taking energy from the land, digging into its hidden places, and waking old powers was something the forest could not forgive. The Los stepped forward bravely and admitted that they had come searching for rare energy, believing the jungle was unguarded, never knowing that they were stepping on sacred ground. The being stared at him for a long silent moment, then said the balance had already been broken, and something imprisoned beneath the earth had begun to wake. Before anyone could ask more, the crack in the ground widened suddenly, splitting trees and throwing everyone off their feet as a burst of black smoke shot upward like a fountain of darkness. The being of light turned sharply, its body glowing brighter as it raised both hands, forming a barrier of golden energy to stop the smoke from spreading, but the dark force pushed harder, striking the barrier with booming pulses that shook the air. Mosi crawled behind a fallen log, shielding his head as trees snapped like sticks and the wind roared with unnatural force, while the Los tried to pull his team to safety, yelling that this was not normal energy but something alive and dangerous. The golden being shouted into their minds that the prison was breaking and that they must run because the creature inside was older than the jungle, older than the stars, and hungry for freedom after thousands of years trapped beneath the roots of the earth. Mosi looked at the crack and felt pure terror when he saw a massive dark shape begin to rise, its form shifting like liquid shadow, its eyes glowing with sickly green fire. The ground shook again, louder than before, as the creature let out a deep growl that echoed through the entire jungle, announcing that it had awakened at last. And with the golden being struggling to hold back the growing darkness, Mosi understood one terrible truth. This was only the beginning, and the real danger had finally arrived. As the dark creature rose from the crack in the earth, the jungle around it seemed to lose all color, as if the shadows were eating the light itself, and Mosi could feel the air turn cold even though the sun had not yet risen. Commander the Los pushed himself up from the ground, his heart racing as he watched the golden being fight to keep the dark force contained, but the barrier was already cracking, thin lines of black energy crawling across the glowing surface like poison running through veins. The alien team scrambled to regroup, their machines sparking and failing because the creature's presence drained power from everything, even the air itself. Mosi felt a sharp pain in his head, as if the creature's voice was whispering inside his skull, calling to him with promises of strength and fear, but he shook it off and forced himself to stand, even though his legs trembled. The golden being shouted into their minds again, its voice deeper and strained. warning them that the creature had been sealed many ages ago after it tried to consume the life force of the entire land, and its hunger had only grown stronger with time. The Los stared in horror because he realized the energy spike they had detected days ago was not a natural pulse but the creature's heartbeat awakening, and by digging near the ancient gate, they had weakened the prison more than they knew. The black smoke swirled around the creature's rising body, forming tendrils that whipped through the air and pulled energy from the trees, causing leaves to turn gray and fall like ash. Birds fell silent, insects vanished, and the forest seemed to hold its breath as if praying to survive what was coming. Mosi looked at the golden being, seeing its form flicker and dim, and he understood that even this ancient guardian was struggling to hold the creature back, its power draining fast. The Los, desperate, ordered his team to activate the emergency shield, but nothing responded. The machines were dead, powerless in the creature's presence. The creature let out another growl, deeper this time, shaking the ground so hard that roots snapped and rocks bounced like pebbles. Mosi staggered but kept his eyes on it, his throat dry with fear, wondering how something like this could even exist. The creature's glowing green eyes locked onto him, and for a moment he felt as if time stopped. His mind pulled into a swirling storm of memories not his own, visions of ancient battles, burning forests, and guardians falling one by one as the creature devoured their life force. He gasped and broke free, dropping to his knees, but the creature only seemed amused, its shadowy form pulsing with dark satisfaction. The golden being moved closer, placing itself between Mosi and the creature, its voice ringing sharply in their minds, telling the beast it would not be allowed to harm the living again. But the creature laughed, a chilling sound like stones grinding together, and with one surge of dark energy it shattered the golden barrier into glowing dust that drifted away like dying fireflies. The Los shouted for everyone to run, and the alien team scattered, dragging wounded soldiers as branches snapped above them and the sky turned darker with each breath. The golden being attacked, firing a beam of bright light from its hands, striking the creature in the chest, causing the shadows to explode outward in violent waves. But the creature simply absorbed the light and grew larger, its shape stretching taller than the trees. Mosi ran toward the Los, helping lift one of the injured aliens, and together they stumbled through the jungle as the earth split open behind them, sending rocks flying like missiles. The golden being, weakened but still determined, rose into the air and formed a giant sphere of blinding light, throwing it at the creature with all the strength it had left. But the creature caught the sphere in its claws and crushed it, the light dying in its grip like a flame smothered by darkness. A moment later the golden being fell to the ground, its form flickering weakly, and the creature approached slowly, its steps shaking the land, savoring the fear it caused. Mosi stopped running, unable to leave the guardian behind, and turned back even as the Los shouted at him to keep going. He saw the golden being struggling to rise, its glow almost gone, and without thinking he stepped toward it, placing a hand on its fading light. A sudden surge of energy shot through him, not painful but warm and ancient, and he heard the being whisper in his mind that the land had chosen him, that only a child of the jungle could stand against the creature now that the guardian's strength was nearly gone. Mosi tried to pull away, but the energy wrapped around him like flowing water, filling his body with strange heat, raising glowing patterns on his skin, the same symbols carved on the stone gate. The creature paused, staring at Mosi with surprise and anger, sensing the shift in power, and the jungle suddenly stirred with life again as trees bent toward Mosi, vines rising from the ground like snakes ready to fight. The Los watched in awe and fear as Mosi's eyes glowed bright gold, the energy still growing inside him, and he realized this young man was becoming something new, something the creature had feared long ago. The creature roared, shaking the forest, knowing its freedom was now threatened, and in that moment Mosi understood the truth. The battle for the jungle had begun, and he was now part of a war older than any human story. The jungle held its breath as Mosi stood glowing with golden energy, the ancient symbols spreading across his skin like living lines of light, and the dark creature stared at him with a mixture of shock and fury, its green eyes narrowing as it sensed the old power waking inside the young man. Commander the Los watched with wide eyes, stunned that the forest itself had chosen a human to carry its strength, and he whispered to his surviving team that this was something no alien technology could ever understand. Mosi felt the power inside him swirl like a rising storm, warm and heavy, filling his chest until he could barely breathe, yet at the same time it felt natural, as if this strength had been sleeping inside him since birth, only waiting for the right moment to awaken. The golden guardian, weak and flickering on the ground, raised its head and spoke inside Mosi's mind, telling him that the creature before them was called unbreakable, the ancient devourer of life, sealed long ago after it tried to consume the entire Congo. Mosi's heart pounded with fear but also with a strange calm, because he could feel the forest around him, the trees whispering, the earth vibrating, the animals hiding yet watching with hope, as if all of nature had become one living force inside him. Umbrakai let out a low growl, annoyed that a human, a simple mortal, dared to stand against it, and with a sweeping motion of its long-shadowed arm it sent a wave of dark smoke rushing toward Mosi like a giant storm cloud. The Los shouted a warning, but Mosi did not run. Instead the symbols on his body glowed brighter and a shield of golden light formed around him, the smoke crashing against it with a powerful blast that shook the trees but failed to break through. Umbrakai snarled in frustration, its body growing larger and darker, pulling strength from the dying earth beneath it, and it charged forward with a thunderous roar, its claws sinking into the ground as it pushed itself toward Mosi with terrifying speed. Mosi raised his hands without fully understanding how, and golden vines shot up from the earth, wrapping around the creature's legs, cracking the soil and pulling tight with strong force. For a brief moment the creature stumbled, shaking the ground, but with a violent burst of dark power it broke free, sending the vines flying in all directions like shredded rope. The creature swiped its massive arm toward Mosi, and the young man jumped back with surprising speed, guided by the energy flowing inside him, but the force of the swing still sent a shockwave that knocked the Los and his team to the ground. Mosi landed hard, rolling across the dirt, but the forest pushed strength into his limbs, helping him rise before Umbrakai could strike again. The Golden Guardian spoke weakly into his mind again, telling him he must not fight with fear but with the unity of the land, because the forest was not just trees and soil but a living spirit older than all wars. Mosi closed his eyes for a moment, focusing on the beating pulse of the earth beneath his feet, and when he opened them again, his vision glowed gold. Umbrakai roared and tried to overwhelm him with a blast of dark energy, but Mosi thrust his hands forward, creating a beam of golden light that clashed with the darkness in a violent explosion that shook the sky and sent birds fleeing in terror. The force of the clash pushed Mosi back, his feet digging trenches in the ground, but he did not fall, and the creature stepped back as well, growling with rage as wisps of smoke burned off its body like peeling shadows. The Los stared in disbelief, realizing that Mosi, an ordinary young man who only hours ago knew nothing of ancient guardians, was now fighting a creature that once challenged the gods of this land. Umbrakai howled in anger, striking the ground with such force that a shock wave rippled outward, toppling trees and cracking the earth in a wide circle. Mosi stumbled again but caught himself, using vines to anchor his feet. The forest seemed to come alive with determination. Roots moved beneath the soil, branches bent toward Mosi, leaves swirled in the air like tiny golden sparks, all lending him strength. The creature lunged again, but this time Mosi leaped into the air with the help of rising vines, flipping over the creature's head and landing on its back, pressing his glowing hands into the swirling shadows. Umbrakai screamed, twisting violently, trying to throw him off, but Mosi held on as golden energy surged from his palms, piercing through the dark smoke and reaching the core of the creature where a pulsing green heart of corrupted energy beat. For a moment Mosi thought he could destroy it, but the creature's power exploded outward, blasting him off its back and sending him flying through the air until he crashed into a thick tree trunk. Pain shot through his body, but the golden energy healed his wounds quickly, pushing him back to his feet as Umbrakai stumbled, weakened but far from defeated. The creature looked more furious than ever, its body rising taller, shadows forming spikes and claws as its rage grew, and the sky darkened above them as clouds formed from the creature's spreading influence. Mosi breathed heavily, sweat mixing with the glowing lines on his skin, and he knew this battle was nowhere near finished. The creature was adapting, growing stronger with every moment it remained free. The Golden Guardian's voice returned, weaker than before, telling Mosi that he must lead Umbrakai toward the ancient gate because only there could the seal be reforged, only there could the creature be trapped again. Mosi nodded, understanding the weight of this mission, and he faced the towering monster as it prepared to attack again. The jungle trembled, the sky darkened, and Mosi stepped forward, ready for the next deadly clash, knowing that the fate of the entire Congo, and maybe the world, rested on his shoulders now. Mosi stood at the edge of the ancient stone gate, his body still glowing with golden light, his chest heaving with exhaustion, but his eyes sharp and determined as he watched Umbrakai, the dark creature, circle the clearing like a predator sizing up its prey, the shadows from its body stretching across the jungle like tendrils of night trying to swallow everything around them. Commander the Los and the remaining alien soldiers crouched behind fallen logs, shielding themselves as much as they could, watching in awe and fear at the young human who had become the living connection between the forest and the ancient guardian's power. Mosi closed his eyes for a moment and listened to the pulse of the jungle beneath him, the vibration of roots, the quiet heartbeat of the trees, the low hum of the earth's energy, and for the first time, he understood fully what the golden being had been trying to tell him. He could feel the mind of the Guardian, feel its thoughts, its memories, its long history, and it was showing him images and flashes, scenes of battles long past, of creatures defeated, of humans and Guardians working together to protect the land. The energy inside him surged, filling every muscle with strength, sharpening his senses, and when he opened his eyes, Umbrakai froze for a moment, as if sensing the shift, sensing that this young human was no ordinary creature. Mosi stepped forward, feeling the jungle moving with him, roots rising slightly from the ground to support his steps, branches bending as if pointing a path toward the stone gate, and he realized that he could communicate with the creature, not with words, but with his mind, just as the Guardian had taught him. He reached out mentally, sending calm thoughts, trying to speak to the ancient beast that had awakened after centuries, telling it that he did not want to fight, that he understood its anger and hunger, and that he could guide it safely without harming the humans or the jungle. Umbrakai hissed and recoiled, confused by the intrusion into its mind, its pulsing green energy flickering with uncertainty, and for the first time, it paused, scanning Mosi with burning eyes that looked into his soul. The Los whispered to the other soldiers that this was something beyond comprehension, a human acting as mediator between a living jungle, a guardian spirit, and a creature of ancient destruction, and he shook his head in disbelief at the impossible events unfolding before him. Mosi raised his hand slowly, golden light flowing outward, illuminating the clearing, and he focused, sending images of the stone gate, of the seal that could hold Umbrakai once more, and of the humans and jungle that could survive if it returned peacefully. The creature growled, a low, shaking sound that reverberated through the air, but Mosi did not flinch, maintaining eye contact, projecting calm determination mixed with the power of the Guardian flowing through him. The jungle seemed to respond to his mind as well, vines twisting gently, roots moving carefully, as if helping him form a corridor toward the gate, guiding Umbrakai without using force. Slowly, almost hesitantly, the massive creature began moving toward the gate, its steps heavy but measured, its green eyes watching Mosi closely, reacting to his thoughts more than his physical gestures. The alien soldiers whispered among themselves, realizing that the young human was somehow controlling the interaction, keeping the creature focused and preventing it from attacking. Umbrakai's growls faded slightly as it moved, the pulsing energy within it less chaotic, and Mosi felt the bond strengthen, sensing that the Guardian's lingering energy inside him was giving him insight into the creature's mind, allowing him to anticipate its movements and guide it without confrontation. As they reached the edge of the stone gate, Mosi projected the final thoughts to the creature, showing it the sealed chamber beneath the gate, illustrating the balance it had once maintained and the safety it could regain if it allowed the seal to be reforged. Umbrakai paused, towering above the gate, its enormous claws digging slightly into the soil as it examined the glowing patterns carved into the stones. Mosi felt the last surge of fear and aggression leave the creature as it finally understood that he was not an enemy, that the Guardian's power inside him was allied with the jungle, and that returning to the gate was the only way to satisfy the balance it craved. With a deep, slow motion, Umbrakai lowered its massive head and allowed the vines rising from the earth to guide it closer to the seal, the golden light from Mosi surrounding it like a river, protecting the humans and dampening its destructive energy. The Los and his soldiers cautiously approached, watching as the creature obeyed the young human's guidance, a living testament to the jungle's wisdom and the Guardian's legacy. Mosi reached the gate and extended his hands toward the carved patterns, feeling the ancient power respond to his presence, connecting the creature's energy to the roots embedded in the stones, and slowly, deliberately, he guided Umbrakai's massive body until the seal beneath the gate engaged with the creature's core energy, locking it in place with a resonating pulse that shook the ground and sent golden sparks into the air. The creature struggled briefly, a low, rumbling protest, but Mosi's calm thoughts and the Guardian's lingering power in him kept it steady, until finally Umbrakai sank into the earth, its green glow dimming, its body held firmly by the seal, and the jungle exhaled as if relieved, the trees straightening, the wind returning, and the forest alive again with quiet, calm energy. Mosi sank to his knees, exhausted, the golden light fading from his body, and the Los rushed to his side, awe and respect in his eyes, realizing that humans, even young and seemingly ordinary ones, could hold the key to the survival of the jungle and even control powers that aliens and machines could not understand. Mosi looked around, seeing the jungle peaceful once more, Umbrakai contained beneath the earth, and the golden Guardian's energy retreating into the soil, leaving him alone but wiser, stronger, and deeply connected to the forest he had helped save, understanding that this moment was the turning point between life and destruction, between humans and ancient powers, and knowing that the bond he had formed with the Guardian and the jungle would never be broken. The jungle was quiet now, almost unnaturally still, as Mosi knelt beside the stone gate, his body tired and his skin still faintly glowing with the golden energy that had saved the forest, while Commander Delos and the surviving alien soldiers watched from a safe distance, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear, awe, and respect, because they had witnessed something no being, human or alien, had seen before. The massive unbreakable was sealed beneath the earth, held by the ancient power of the gate and the guardian that still pulsed faintly within the jungle, and yet its presence could still be felt, a deep thrum vibrating in the air as if it was waiting and watching, reminding Mosi that the danger was far from over. Delos stepped closer, his voice low and serious, asking Mosi what would happen now, whether the creature could escape again, and whether the aliens could survive if it ever did. But Mosi looked at the jungle around him and felt the quiet hum of life, the energy of the roots, the whispering of the wind through the leaves, and he realized that the forest itself had made its decision, that the balance had been restored, but only if respect was maintained. The alien soldiers shifted nervously, scanning the trees for movement, for any sign that Umbrakai had broken free or that some other force might strike, and Mosi told them calmly that the jungle would protect itself, that the Guardian had chosen him to be a bridge between life and power, and that the aliens must leave without taking anything from the land, because greed or disrespect would awaken Umbrakai again. Delos hesitated, glancing at the remaining technology, the drill, and the maps that still showed traces of the energy beneath the earth, but Mosi raised his hand, golden lines faintly visible across his palm, and explained that they could not carry the power away, that it belonged to the jungle and the Guardian alone, and any attempt to remove it would bring destruction to both them and the forest. The aliens muttered among themselves, frustrated, but the longer they looked at Mosi, the more they understood that he was not just a human, he was the chosen protector, and that the jungle would not yield to anyone's desire for control. Mosi turned his attention to the stone gate, running his fingers over the ancient carvings, feeling the lingering pulse of energy from the Guardian, and he knew he had a choice. He could stay with the forest forever, dedicating himself to protecting it, or return to his village and live a life of normalcy, carrying the secret inside him but not openly using the power. The golden energy inside him surged as he thought, reminding him of the creatures that had been destroyed, the lives that could have been lost, and the responsibility now resting on his shoulders, and he realized that he could not ignore this duty. He looked at Delos and the alien soldiers and said that the jungle must remain untouched, its secrets respected, and that he would stay, serving as the Guardian's bridge to the world, ensuring that no one would awaken Umbrakai again by greed, ignorance, or violence. Delos bowed his head in understanding, his soldiers following, and they began dismantling their machines, carefully avoiding any damage to the jungle, recording nothing, taking nothing, and preparing to leave the planet without disturbing the balance. Their mission failed in terms of extraction but successful in survival, a lesson in humility that even the most advanced species could not ignore. Mosi watched them depart, the ship lifting smoothly from the clearing, wings shining faintly in the morning light as they vanished above the trees, and he felt a mixture of relief and sadness, knowing that humans and aliens alike had been spared destruction because he had made the right choice and because the Guardian's trust had chosen him. He turned back to the gate, kneeling, and whispered thanks to the Guardian, promising to honor the jungle and to protect its secrets, and as he did, a gentle breeze rustled through the trees, leaves glowing faintly in the dawn light, as if the forest itself was acknowledging his vow. Hours passed, the sun rising higher in the sky, and Mosi trained himself, practicing control over the energy, feeling the pulse of the jungle, learning to sense the presence of life and of danger, knowing that one day the balance might be tested again. He ventured deeper into the jungle, guided by the roots and vines, discovering hidden pools, ancient carvings, and places where the Guardian's energy concentrated, each step teaching him more about the life force of the forest and the way it connected everything, from the smallest insect to the tallest tree, and even the ancient creature sleeping below. Nights came and went, and the forest remained calm, but Mosi never forgot the terror of Umbrakai's awakening, using those memories to strengthen his resolve, becoming more than a boy from a village. He became a protector, a living bridge between humanity and the ancient powers of the Congo. Occasionally he would see signs of past visitors, birds flying in strange patterns, shadows moving too quickly to be normal, but he did not fear them, understanding that the jungle allowed only those who respected it to witness its secrets. And deep beneath the earth, Umbrakai remained contained, restless but bound, its presence a constant reminder that the forest's power was not to be challenged. Mosi finally stood at the edge of the stone gate one evening, looking out over the trees, feeling the warmth of the setting sun, and realized that the decision he had made, to stay, to protect, and to honor the Guardian, was more important than any reward, more important than fear or desire, and that the jungle, the Guardian, and he were now forever linked in a bond of life, energy, and vigilance, guarding the secrets of the Congo and ensuring that nothing, human or alien, would disturb its balance again.